So my most recent video about Chevron Deference really seemed to anger some of the trolls, and I've had to ban a few people because they were not respectful. And I have no problem banning people. I've been on the internet since basically before it existed. In fact, I started back around the days of ARPANET and loop lines and all the fun things because I worked for a telecommunications company. And so at that time, I was, very aware of what the internet could be, and I grew up with it. I grew up with the internet because I had access to the internet before AOL Online existed, and that's where most people got online. Okay, I remember the days of Yahoo dating and Yahoo chat, and I remember the days before Google existed. And so I understand that trolls will troll, and I don't get angry about it because I know that's what they feed on. But what you have to understand about the whole Chevron deference thing is the people advocating for its removal are saying, look, the Senate should, in fact, be making less abstract laws, and they should be having the ability to say, this is what's illegal, this is what's not. And I totally get that. I actually agree. The problem with that is there are topics and things that these people who are duly elected to be a part of that process just don't know because they don't have the scientific background. And so, what do you do when you are in that situation in software development? Well, you ask a more senior developer. Or if you're part of the business, you ask engineering how to do that. And so this is effectively the same process from my perspective. Chevron deference was not something that was meant to allow government to become bloated or have administrators create laws. It was created as a duly elected individual who was elected into the Senate to say, hey, I'm going to delegate this workout. I am choosing through my duly elected powers to delegate this to somebody I trust. And that's what Chevron deference was. And so I support Chevron deference. And I think its removal was absolutely terrible. And if you don't agree, that's fine. But that doesn't give you the right to lie and troll and create problems and use racist slurs on my channel. And that's why I'm deleting things. And I'm also fully aware that YouTube is deleting things as well. I got hit with a bot attack and YouTube is responding. That's not on me, that's on YouTube. Okay. They have the right to delete their stuff. If somebody's posting racist stuff, then YouTube has the right to delete that. And so, one of the things that you need to understand is that Chevron deference was about the freedom to delegate. It was the freedom to say, look, I'm a duly elected individual in the Senate, but I don't know about the science of climate change. It's a big, complicated subject with, different chemicals involved. I don't know about that. Let's just ask a scientist. That's effectively what it comes down to. And so the reason I like Chevron deference is that it appeals to truth. The idea, even if it was badly implemented, and yes, I know it was abused by administrators and so forth, but the fact is, at its core, the idea was ask somebody with more knowledge. Don't be trapped by your own ignorance. Be humble and be willing to admit that you don't know everything. And at that point, learn, ask, and hope that the people around you will want to help. That was the core of Chevron deference. And that is why I supported it. It's why I support it now. And I really hope that that ruling is challenged and overturned because it can be. And so the big issue here is that I got some people in my comments that did not like this. They don't like the idea of not being allowed to check in any code until the application is fully done. They got caught up on the politics and they didn't understand that my channel is about technology. I might post a political stuff from time to time, but it's always in the context of software and software development because that is what I care about. That is the world I live in. That is the career I've had for 25 plus years. I've been doing this for over a quarter of a century. It is my life. So if you're a, political robot or a Russian troll or whatever, TTF off my channel because this isn't the place for you. If you're a real human being and you actually want to learn about software, then great, welcome. But I think the bots are excessive, and it's clear that they're trying to push some kind of political agenda. And I am hoping that it dies down after the 11th of this month. We've got 9 days. Uh, Hopefully, they'll get some resolution of some kind at that point, and it'll stop. But honestly, I'm all about hope. I'm all about wanting to learn. I'm all about being humble enough to ask questions and telling our government that they're not allowed to check in any code until they've entirely finished the entire app is dumb because that's exactly what you're doing when you're saying that the Senate isn't allowed to delegate through Chevron deference. You're basically saying, look, they have to figure it out all up front before they pass a law. And I get it. I understand why you'd want that. I understand that there's going to be debates about that. But what you should understand is that the implementation details of some of these laws are fluid. You don't just write code and then never edit it again. And so as part of that process, they're trying to write generics. Okay? If you understand software, they're trying to write generic functions. They're trying to understand that you're going to input a large sparse matrix as an input, and they want to handle all the possible values. They are not going to allow you to write something super, super, super tiny unless it's really critically important. That is not code that gets checked into the code base because that's exactly what it is. Laws are the code for society. Laws are the code for civilization. They are the mutual agreements that we all agree that we should follow. It started out with verbal agreements, and then it became the written word, and then it became the written word with enforcement. That's how our society evolved. And yeah, we can debate about the value of specific laws and how they're passed. That's fine. Not here, obviously, but we have the ability to do that. And so you should understand that in this context, Chevron deference allowed for polymorphic generic code that didn't have to be edited again after the fact because it was solid and dry. Was it perfect? No. There was probably some bugs in there and definitely a few unit tests that weren't going to pass initially. But they were iterating on that. They were getting to that in the next sprint. And so as part of that, you have to understand that it's not going to be perfect because society is not perfect. Okay? There are variables and constraints. It's as somebody who has studied both software and the law, I am not a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. I understand because we are impacted so much by law, but you don't understand it. But we're actually impacted by law code more because law says what you're not allowed to do. Code says what you're not able to do. Okay, if I write a code in a certain way that it makes it so you can't do something, then you can't do it even if you want to. Somebody passes a law that says, hey, you can't do that. Well, guess what? You can still do it, but you're going to get in trouble if you do. And so as a result of that, you shouldn't break any laws. But Chevron deference allows the experts to go, you know what? That's a stupid law. Let's push back on that. Or even better, look, that's a good law, but only in this specific context. Let's scope that to this method function instead of the entire namespace. Okay? And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, then learn more about software. Because if you understand these concepts, then you'll understand why Chevron deference was important and why I'm going to keep supporting it. The only people I've seen that actually don't support it are all people that support Trump. And Trump destroyed the software development industry, so he doesn't get to tell me how to write my code.